This episode of the Wedding Film School Show is brought to you by MusicBed, the best music licensing platform for wedding filmmakers. Head over to themusicbed.com and enter our code WFS on checkout to get a free month on your annual wedding subscription. Now, on to the show.
A big part of what we do day in and day out is also business challenges. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about today, right, Jay?
Yeah, we're talking about NDAs.
When people are asking for an NDA, I think it really falls into like two categories, right? One is either you're really famous, and two is you're not really famous, right?
First of all, charge a lot of money. Like, I don't know what you need to charge, but that person should have to think twice.
It's a slippery slope when wedding filmmakers start giving that away for free. If you're going to do it for a little bit, but then you should be aiming to really charge what you're worth. They were like, I'm surprised that you guys charge for an NDA. And I was like, yeah. She was like, you should be paying me to use my likeness. And I said, no, I shouldn't. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Wedding Film School Show. We have another awesome episode for you today. The Wedding Film School Show, of course, is the #1 podcast for wedding filmmakers. If you haven't already, make sure you're checking out our YouTube channel, The Wedding Film School Show, and also the OG Wedding Film School YouTube channel.
R.I.P. Craig Adams.
R.I.P. Craig Adams, where we do weekly content for wedding filmmakers, as well as on Instagram, as well as on TikTok. All the social places you can find the Wedding Film School. Jason McCutcheon, my friend, partner in crime on this show, as well as in business, is in the house today. How we doing, Jason?
Very good. It's I'm not sure when we're releasing this, but it's June right now, and we have 10 weddings this weekend.
Yeah, dude, it feels really good being back in the saddle and getting back to it, and everything still works. We're not terrible shooters.
Yeah, we still can make wedding films.
Yeah,
that people like.
Yeah,
so that's good.
What have you found to be true recently in some of your wedding films in terms of what you're creating and what are some things that you've been learning lately?
I think it always comes back to, for me, what is the difference between a professional in this industry versus someone who might be artistically gifted or talented, but they're not professional, right? And to me, when you're shooting weddings, ultimately the most professional way to shoot weddings is to take, I don't know how to say, normal people or maybe less interesting subjects,
yeah,
and actually find a way to extract really beautiful stories that aren't just obvious. Sometimes I'll see films and I'm like, well, of course that's a beautiful story. Look at this person weeping and crying, and that's awesome. Those are great stories. But at the end of the day, that's a very small percentage of wedding films. Most wedding films are going to be people who are like, well, I just want to get back to the cocktail hour. I just want to get back to cocktail hour. They're not interested in making this thing. And I feel like that's been so true this year. I've shot so many weddings where the couple's like literally you're shooting portraits with them. They go and then the second you're not rolling, they're not even into it. Mm-hmm. And I'm not upset with them because they paid a lot of money for that party. Their guests are there. There's a lot going on. And I think, I'm always kind of captivated by the game as a wedding filmmaker of how can I make this couple forget that they're not that into this. I want them to watch the portrait session and think oh, that was so cool. I wish we would have done more.
Yeah.
Right. And I always think so many wedding filmmakers don't really perceive the challenge of extracting value out of the story that's actually happening instead of trying to, this is crap. Right. It's it doesn't have to be crap. It can be amazing.
Yeah. And you got to always keep in mind, for us, what we're doing is wedding filmmaking. We're 100% focused on what we're making, and we're hey, wouldn't this be awesome if you did this? It's our main focus. You got to keep in mind for them, they're my main focus is making my mom not be upset with me, and balancing that with shooting photos and what the photographer wants and what the videographer wants and what the planner wants. The planner wants to take the couple away from the portrait session so they can bustle the dress and they can, prep.
The bride is anxious and the groom knows how she gets when she's anxious. So
right.
He doesn't want her to get anxious. And there's just all kinds of there's a lot going on.
There is. So keeping all that in mind and still knowing that when you deliver the wedding film, the bride's going to expect the wedding film to be as if you had all the time in the world with them on the wedding day.
Like whatever like that dream couple was that you delivered where they were perfect and everything was exactly what you wanted.
You had 8 hours to shoot with them on a mountaintop somewhere.
Or like an hour to do details or like the court, whatever it is. Like they're not going to be like, well, I understand. I was a real pain to work with.
Yeah. It never works that way.
No.
We had a bride last year complain that, well, the room just looked really orange. And we were like, well, we were shooting at sunset where the sun was literally lighting up the entire room. Harsh shadows. Like, we can't
Have you
control
been
that.
outside?
Yeah.
Have you been out there?
Yeah, that's what the sun looks like. It's golden yellow around that time. But anyways, we're talking about a lot of like creative kind of problems and just making wedding films. But also a big part of what we do day in and day out is also business challenges, kind of solving those business challenges. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about today, right, Jay?
Yeah, we're talking about NDAs and really like kind of probably 3 really main areas we want to hit, which is obviously what is an NDA and like why would a couple even want this basically? Should you be doing it at all? And maybe when you shouldn't. And then of course, you know, the how much should this even cost? And I don't know, if you've been in this industry for any period of time, you've encountered someone who's been like, I'm just a really private person. Like most of us haven't worked a celebrity wedding, right? But they're like people who are private and they want an NDA. You probably get that a lot in sales.
Yeah, I mean, that's the number one thing.
You had a phone call today.
Yeah. And that's kind of what brought on, I think, maybe some of the conversation is just like, you know, are we doing this wrong? Are we doing this right? And I was like, no, you know, because I did stick by my guns and I said, we are not willing, because they were like, I'm surprised that you guys charge for an NDA. And I was like, yeah. She was like, you should be paying me.
She said that.
To use my likeness. And I said, no, I should not. That's like fantasy world. Like, that's not how the law works or whatever. There's a reason why the paparazzi, you know, and it's just like, it just wasn't a good fit. And we ended the conversation after 5 minutes, which was nice because I didn't have to waste my time. But, you know, I think this kind of world, when you start getting into the luxury market and a little bit maybe into like the high end market, you start encountering people that will start saying things like that. Like, well, we're just really private people. We're not big on Instagram. That's a big thing that I hear all the time.
Or I'm a lawyer.
Or I'm a lawyer and I'm, gonna literally...
No lawyer's ever been on the internet.
Yeah. So exactly.
All lawyers who are on the internet have been stalked and killed. And any lawyer who's not, they're safe. So
yeah. And I would just say, as someone who works with a lot of lawyers, most do not care and want to fight you on. You know, I can always tell. I don't know if you've seen this, Jay. Like, I'm on the phone a lot with brides. I can always tell fresh law students that are just fresh out of, they just passed the bar and they're rearing to fight you on the contract. And I'm always like, that's fine. Good luck. Bye. Like, because I'm not going to fight you. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not going to fight you like you're a lawyer. If you want to talk to the lawyer, you can talk to my lawyer, but I'm going to charge you $300 an hour for his time. So if you want to duke it out in the courtroom of a phone call, then you can have at it. But.
Well, and the truth is this. I think a lot of filmmakers struggle with this issue because many are very sensitive to the idea that someone would want their private love story to be private. That's a human thing that anyone can, not anyone, but because I don't really fully understand it because you just paid someone to document you. Like, how private could you really be? Like, it's, I think, inherently a little narcissistic.
We're just really private people, but come into the room as I change clothes into my dress.
Yeah, and I'll post it.
Yeah.
Like, I'll post it myself. It's like, you're not private. Get out of here.
Yeah.
But, like, regardless, like, I think a lot of people struggle because they do have some level of understanding. Like, having your privacy invaded, the line between, like, your private life and the internet, all that stuff, legitimate social issues. I think what people need and what most people don't understand, and I feel like I have I'm blessed because I have commercial experience. What people need to understand about wedding films is wedding films for your business are commercial filmmaking. Like, privacy is not the consideration. The consideration is licensing. and who owns the footage and what is the purpose of commercial footage. And the purpose of commercial footage is to promote and sell a product. Your brand is the product. And what I don't say this to brides, but what I always want to say to brides is, okay, that's really cool that you're private. How did you find our film? Like, that's pretty unethical of you to watch other people's private lives. Like you watch our films of all, you're like a voyeur.
Yeah.
You watch all our films, you peek into these people. You don't have the moral of privacy. You don't actually believe in privacy. Otherwise, you wouldn't watch any wedding films. So every person who ever found your wedding film company, if you're listening to
it's
this,
about consent, Jason. Did
Sure.
you consent?
So they did consent. That is the contract.
Yes.
The contract you're signing with couples is a commercial contract for you as a business to create commercial products from the work that you do. And if I said it to you like that as a wedding filmmaker, hey, you can't use your wedding films to promote your brand. You would literally be out of business. There's no world where every couple could request this. So if you're telling me, oh, I believe it's right, I actually don't believe you, because you only believe it's right until enough couples say it or the wrong wedding says it, and you can't actually succeed as a business.
Yeah. So let's take a quick step back and kind of explain what an NDA is for those who maybe haven't heard this term before. Essentially what an NDA is, what it stands for literally is non-disclosure agreement. So what does that mean?
Yeah, or some people call it privacy clause, but NDA basically is basically like, I agree not to put your stuff on the internet or use it in any commercial capacity, or I can't release this. Only you can release this.
Yeah.
That's basically what it means. It does not mean that they own the footage.
Yeah.
By the way,
in a wedding contest, and NDAs are also common in really anything. If someone's going to share their idea with you, and we had to sign an NDA when we were reviewing someone's proposal for an app, and we were going to build the app. They're sharing their intellectual property with us. We're agreeing to not disclose anything about the app or the release of a camera or whatever it might be. That's what an NDA is. It's to protect, a lot of times, intellectual property.
Yes, but the issue is like the NDA is typically on certain specific things, right? So the other day, I was at a place and Good Morning America was there and they're filming. So I'm shooting BTS for the business. And the guy comes, he's like, hey, just so you know, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I got it. Like, he can't tell me I can't shoot in the business. He has no jurisdiction on that. I cannot take their content and put it in my video. Right? And so it's like the NDA is not on the people necessarily. And it's all about how you use something and what they're saying. And so people misunderstand that. Like, that bride's like, oh, you won't take my likeness. You can't take my likeness. And yeah, that's true. I can't just break into your wedding, start shooting pictures of a person who didn't sign a contract with me, and then say that they got a wedding film from me to promote my business. I can't say that they endorse this brand when they don't. Right? So that's really what it's for. And why you actually need to you don't want to be doing this is basically what I'm saying. You need to do it. And so you need this content
right,
as a wedding filmmaker. You can't run a business without wedding films.
Yep.
That's very basic. So I think that's the first understanding is, hey, an NDA is a non-disclosure agreement. You agree not to release their film, essentially.
Yep.
And a lot of people want it because they say they're private.
Yep.
It's really not that complicated.
Yep. And I would just, of course, have to do all the premising of Jason and I are not lawyers by any means. Sometimes we might think we are, but we have not passed the bar.
We pay money to lawyers.
But based on our conversations with our lawyer, this is really just our perspective on why you might want to approach things and talk to your lawyer about very specific things when it comes to your contracts, the wedding industry, etc.
Well, you can have an NDA on the final deliverable, but not on the footage. You could have an NDA where it's you can't, because you can have a license on the final deliverable, but not the footage.
Yeah. So when people are asking for an NDA, typically I think it really falls into two categories, right? One is either you're really famous
Yep.
And 2 is you're not really famous, right? So the people that maybe you would want to consider, doing an NDA for, are maybe the people that you think is worth it for you to get in an inner circle. Because clearly, if you shoot, Tiger Woods' wedding, and you are in that circle, you might get hired not because you're posting it to Instagram, which would be cool, right? You'd probably get a lot of work from that, but they are cutting off that opportunity for you. You cannot post it to Instagram. You can't put it out there. You can't put footage. You can't show how awesome you did, whatever. But maybe you're getting into the inner circle. Maybe you're working with a planner that you want to work with. So you might decide like, hey, in that case, an NDA might be worth it to me, right?
Well, like, I think it's important, like you're kind of alluding at, essentially, NDA is costly to you.
Yes.
As a business person. There is a cost. So when people are like, why are you charging for that? Well, I'm paying them a heavy price for this.
Right.
And the price is like, I think celebrity weddings are a good way to look at it. That celebrity knows if, and by the way, not every celebrity makes you sign an NDA, by the way, but that celebrity knows if you release my content, it will be valuable to you. It will generate leads for you. It will help you. By the way, they might not be saying it's not going to be released. They might be saying you can't release it. Mm-hmm. I'm going to release it. It can't appear on your Instagram. It has to have my logo on it. All that stuff, which also screws you, by the way.
Yeah.
But regardless, it's like there's a cost, and that person typically would be willing to pay for it because they're not an idiot, and they know like it would really help them if, I don't know, you're shooting like Barack Obama divorces Michelle and he gets married to a new, like you shoot Barack Obama's wedding or some celebrity's wedding. It's very valuable to them, to you. And I think it's important to think about that example and then realize, like, how many weddings do we get booked? Not because we're the best filmmaker, but because we've shot that venue a lot.
Yeah, a lot. There's just the SEO value. Being online, being on Vimeo, being on YouTube, like having it be something that we've done. Someone will type into Google, Boston Public Library, wedding video, and boop, we pop up because we've been there 20
Vermont
times.
Same-sex wedding,
whatever.
Anything where it's like that person sees themselves in your content. It's to that person who's that shopping,
right?
That's valuable, and
so we just posted a film that we did a week and a half ago in Boston. We haven't. It's our kind of boutique brand, so maybe we're doing like 5 weddings a year under this label, right? We post a film, hype film, crazy. That week we went from 0 inquiries to 4 inquiries. High end brides have the money, $10,000+ budgets.
Tons of planners following us. Big photographers.
We collaborated with the planner so that it's going out to all her planner friends. Like, it got us a ton of exposure. Pretty much, if that had an NDA, that's limiting my opportunity to make potentially $100,000 just by not posting a freaking Instagram video.
Yes.
So when you think about the $100,000 of potential that you can make on that one video that
or even if
post,
it's
and think about
even
the
if
lifetime,
it's $8,000.
Think about the lifetime of that potential lead chain. You might be introduced to a planner who introduces you to another planner. You might get to work your dream venue. Like, think about the chain of events by just doing an NDA and now imagine doing that for free, for just giving someone an NDA for no money at all.
So many wedding filmmakers have had their life changed by one film.
One film.
You don't know what film that's going to be. Like, and that's the other thing is you're signing the NDA beforehand.
Yep.
There are plenty of weddings where I've shot them. I'm like, yeah, I don't care. This is not good. I'll sign.
Right.
I'll give you, like, don't assume anything.
Right.
You might show up there, and actually, the other thing is the couples actually sometimes don't even really want the NDA.
Right.
If you just have it on, like, so let's talk about selling these things, because I think we've established your commercial films for your thing, like that bride was wrong. Mm-hmm. You shouldn't have been paying her. Your contract is a release. That is what your contract is supposed to be.
Right.
And
just to clarify, yes, if I was to use someone else's likeness and make money off someone else's likeness, but I couldn't do that if I shot a paparazzi shot of George Clooney. I couldn't try to sell my cologne with a paparazzi shot of George Clooney. That would be using his likeness to make money. Same way, using some random, bride who likes her privacy for my, to make money off of. I couldn't do that. But when I do have that contract that states, hey, you are signing this away, that's what gives you the right to be able to use that film. The footage is still yours, still belongs to you, whatever. Like, you can post, anything outside of that person's likeness.
You have a license to publish the content, but
Yes.
I own the content.
Right.
So when I want to make a highlight reel of my entire 20, so the reason I'm not even just sending you.
And that's just case law. That's not even in the contract that you own the footage. Whoever pushes the button on that camera owns the footage.
Well, unless it's work for hire.
Unless it's work for hire and you have a contract
how we're
in
structured,
place.
But
that you have to. That's important to clarify. Without any structure in place, that footage belongs to the person who pushes the button
pretty
and
much.
captures it. So make sure if someone else is shooting for you, by the way,
Unless they're using your cameras.
Make sure you have a document that states, hey, this is work for hire. You are just working for my production company. I still own the footage. I can use it. You don't own the footage.
Yeah, unless you're using your cameras.
Really?
Yeah, if you're using your cameras,
What if they're rented? Does
Well,
it belong to the
who
rental
paid
company?
who paid for them?
Really?
Yeah. It's like if you're using all your stuff.
I would need to look into that. I haven't seen anything.
I'm
about
pretty
that.
sure if you're using all your stuff, they would go that's clearly a work for hire situation. Even if you forgot to specifically write it, they would know this
Well,
person,
I wouldn't encourage someone to take that to court.
because then they're getting paid to press a button. They're not getting paid to create content. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? Anyway,
Right.
we're not that. Call your own lawyer about that stuff.
Call your own lawyer about all of it. I don't want to be
But-
liable for any of it.
But I will say, I have enough experience in the commercial world to tell you, that person, literally can't demand that you don't publish their content unless they pay you,
Right.
or unless you are willing to foolishly give them an NDA for free. So let's talk about just the politics of NDAs.
Okay.
So couples call you, they want privacy. When, and you kind of alluded to this, when is it worth it to do an NDA?
Yeah, I kind of alluded to it. I think if you're working with a planner that you want to work with, you're like, hey, this is the in. Because the money-making opportunity is working with that planner. She's going to hire you for another one, and maybe that one doesn't require an NDA.
Well, that NDA, the NDA payment is the next wedding with that planner.
Right. And you're going to be into the circle and whatever. That's interesting. But the other person that I was talking about, the non-celebrity, I don't know. That to me, I would think maybe isn't even worth your time. Unless you really need that $4,000 job and you're going to sign an NDA for free for $4,000. Some people might be in that situation. Yeah. I definitely want to speak to those people.
Yeah, without mocking anyone, I think it's worth it if you really need the money. Money to me trumps when it comes to running a business. It's everything. And so, if you're just not in a position, you don't have the authority in the market, you're new, beggars can't be choosers. If you're in that situation, you can't do it for most, but it might be worth it to you. You have to, only you know that.
Yeah.
But I would say that just know you're giving something up.
Just know you're a whipping boy. And just know that you're the dog in the relationship, and no one cares about you, and you have no authority. But I think generally you should be striving to be no, eventually I am going to be either charging for my NDAs or just refusing them outright.
I know planners that won't take a wedding with anyone who's not a celebrity that wants an NDA.
Yeah, right. The only NDAs they'll take are celebrities.
Because they know the value of that wedding to them.
And a lot of planners are only doing big
7
planners,
weddings max.
5 to 10 weddings a year, maybe. So if you're taking away 20% of their marketing opportunity, and it's their best wedding of the year, most planners are not doing it. So there is precedence, not just in the wedding film world, not just in photography, but with planners too. You have a whole industry. People make fun of the wedding industry, oh, it's an industry.
The wedding
so
tax.
much money, and all these people are taking advantage. No. This is all good. This is good that we have a wedding industry with common language and common practices. Because guess what happened? I got off the phone with that bride today. She's going to go to some other wedding filmmaker, and they're probably going to say the same thing I did. They'll be like, well, maybe they're a little bit more like fudgy about
Happy
whatever.
to be there too.
Happy to be there. Oh yeah, whatever. I can't believe they would charge for an NDA.
We
blah, blah, blah.
would never violate your privacy like
Yeah.
that. We care
Fine.
about you as a person.
Fine. I would say whoever is not charging for an NDA, I'm much more successful than them. I can promise you that. But I would say
The films aren't better.
the films aren't better, and maybe that person just needs the opportunity. I'm not really making fun of that person. Whatever.
No, there's nothing
But-
like I said. If you need money, then I get it.
I think it's a slippery slope when wedding filmmakers start giving that away for free. I would say if you're going to do it for a little bit, but then you should be aiming to really charge. It's kind of like I put it in the same category as like charge what you're worth. It's like it's a sign of disrespect. I think when someone's asking you for an NDA and they expect it to give it to you, stand up for yourselves, guys. Like it's like not.
Yeah,
that
I would
difficult.
say the other side of the of why it's worth it, like you had alluded to, is potentially vendor related. Like if I got an opportunity to shoot with Corbin Gherkin, I'm gonna do whatever it takes.
Right.
To get into the room, right? And the other thing is if she signed an NDA, or if like a bunch of the high end vendors also signed an NDA,
Yep.
I know that there's like credibility to the NDA,
Yeah.
right? And so I might do it,
Right. And this
but
is
but
really.
but to me it's the same. It's all like what marketing opportunity is more valuable to me? Is it releasing some content, or is it working with good people? I'm not actually compromising anything
Right.
in either of those situations. I'm either taking like the bird in hand is the relationship with the planner. So that's more important to me.
But also, this brings up an important point that I feel like no one has thought about until like I'm the only person that I feel like I've talked about it much is if you sign an NDA and if the planner doesn't have an NDA, what happens when the planner's like, hey, I would love to have like a reel of my work from that day. You're working with your dream planner and you have to turn around and say, oh, I gave this NDA away for free to the couple. Sorry, I can't share anything. That sucks. The planner thinks you screwed them. So it hurts your relationship with the planner at the end of the day. So that is also something, an aspect to this to really keep in mind, because that's happened to us. We've been like, shoot, like we gave this NDA away for very cheap. And we've recently really raised our rate on the NDA. Like, which kind of leads me, why don't we start talking about just how should you charge
How
for
should
an
you,
NDA?
well, and it's how should you charge and how should you sell it in sales, I think are important. Because I think the first thing you should do is try to talk someone out of an NDA.
Sure.
The first thing you should try to do is say, well, tell me what your concerns are, right? Like, you might be able to create some kind of like, let me show it to you first, or trust me, I won't do this, or I won't do that. You don't have to get into the legal, like you might be able to make assurances to that couple where they are realizing you're not gonna embarrass them
Yeah.
in any way. And I think,
I don't find that works, but it is a starting point.
no, you should have a conversation and let them like hear what their concerns are.
Sure,
I wouldn't say
sure.
don't do that. That's dumb.
Yeah,
I
hear
would
what their
be-
concerns are.
I would
for
say,
sure.
well, tell me
It
what your
opens the
concerns
conversation.
are, and because they might say like, well, we just don't want like our like certain moments, or we don't want this, or we don't, and like
Sure.
like
Fair.
you might be able to say like, okay, well, if I create like a piece of marketing material and we just show your reception,
Right.
like you want to like if you can convince a person and if that doesn't work, typically obviously you have to present some kind of price. I think the first thing a lot of people do wrong is they put in, when we used to do this, they put an NDA like as an option in their a la cartes. I don't think you should ever bring it up
Yeah.
until they bring it up. Make them ask, because what a lot of people will do is they'll look and go like, oh yeah, that could be cool. Chick, like these people are probably rich. They can afford, if they know they could
Right.
have it, they might just buy it.
Right.
If they didn't, you might have created demand.
Yeah. I think, it's in our contract currently. Like, here are our NDA options. Privacy clause.
A contract
options.
is a little different to me,
Sure.
but if it's on your
But
a
it's
la
something
carte
they
page,
read. Oh yeah, a la carte page on the website.
it shouldn't be in a
Forget
sales
about it.
environment. It should be like
Forget about it. Yeah.
behind some kind of relationship wall.
Yep.
Like I don't want a person to know about it till I've had at least a consult with them. I don't want them to be like, oh, I looked at your packages and I want highlight film, ceremony, NDA.
Yeah. In this case today, it was literally the first thing my bride asked me about. I was like, this isn't going to work because you're not going to like what I have to say. And like, we're not going to budge and you're going to be a lawyer girl. And like, it's not going to work.
Oh, she's a lawyer.
Yeah, but she sounded like she was a lawyer. She was like,
she
goes, well, the recent ruling in New York, blah, blah, blah. I was like, I don't care. We're not going to be a good fit because I'm not going to do it based on what your interpretation of New York law is.
Well, and
like,
additionally,
don't care.
Our agreement is that any agreement you sign is the agreement. It doesn't matter case law. The agreement is I get to use this. That is our agreement.
Exactly.
So that I will say, I don't have to be a lawyer to explain to you. If you're listening to this, if you say to the client, I can do this, and they say yes and sign the contract, it doesn't matter if California decided people need to. If they're giving you permission, that is the contract.
Yes. I would say at least there's an argument to be made that, they can't sue you. But, I think things are crazy in that world, and I'm glad I'm not a lawyer because it sounds awful. But, yes, to your point, yes. I
that's
think
how it's supposed to be structured.
Yeah. Yep. I think that, when it comes to charging for an NDA, there are a couple different options. I know some people who charge a percentage. Sometimes it's 20% of their overall cost, right? So it's like the higher dollar amount. If you're charging $50,000,
to me that makes a ton of sense. By the way,
I'm gonna charge you $10,000 for an NDA. It's a percentage-based thing. Like that works for a lot of people because it's the higher you go up, the more it's gonna be.
Well, it's very much like a licensing cost. Now, a lot of times the percentage will go down as the cost goes up. Mm-hmm. So it's like, it's 20% under $5,000 and 17% up to 10. You can get in. You can make it as complicated as you want.
Man,
but it makes sense to be a percentage.
Nothing makes me want to get into wedding videography more than talking about tiered percentages of contracts.
You're speaking my language. Talk dirty to me.
Kill me.
Like,
but a percentage is a way to do it. The way that we do it, and we've chosen to do it, is we have two different tiers. One tier is going to be full buyout NDA. It's going to cost you a certain amount of money, and it's
this is just what we do.
Thousands of dollars. For us, it's not a percentage based because I don't think we've gotten to that point yet. For us, like I don't know. I just like the dollar amount up front, and then the other option is a partial buyout, a partial NDA, which
it's all about the likeness, right?
Which is all about the likeness. So essentially, we can use shots from your wedding. We can use the venue. We can use the flowers. If I shot your planner, a couple shots of them, arranging a bouquet or whatever, I can use them. I can be in the spaces. I can use your dress. But when it comes to your likeness, I'm not going to use shots of you in your face.
Which is
could even use,
this is political, by the way, guys. Like when we do this, in reality, I'm fairly certain that you actually can't say you can't show footage of the venue or of flowers from someone's wedding. Like I'm pretty certain you don't, like no NDA would cover that. Mm-hmm. Like you would be like, what if someone flew a drone over it? Like they can do that. Mm-hmm. So the person's not in it. So they can't say like, that tree that's in the front.
Yep.
Like where's the line?
Yep.
Where's the line? So I'm pretty sure they're really designed to cover likenesses.
Yep.
They're not so much designed to cover like a planner's work.
Right.
We just did a job last week. A planner hired us, basically paid full rate, like a wedding, to just come and shoot, set up, and final design. Mm-hmm. The couple didn't want anyone there.
Yep.
So we didn't see the couple at all. What about that situation?
Right.
What if they were like, oh, I don't want that? It's like, I'm pretty sure that anyone would be like, sorry, couple. Like, you don't own the Liberty Hotel.
Yep.
You don't own those flowers. You don't own that table.
Yep.
Nothing about this is yours.
Yep.
You're just borrowing the space from the Liberty.
Yep.
So it's like, we do that. We're not making a legal recommendation. I
agree.
We don't want to be in the political thing.
The main thing to me isn't even the money necessarily, in that I need to make money on licensing or whatever, or even we do volume, dude.
Yeah.
Like we're going to shoot 200 weddings this year. Like I don't necessarily need this one wedding from the Boston Public Library because I have 4 more this year. Like, it's fine. I don't need it for those reasons like other people who are doing 10 weddings a year would need it. So I get it. But the thing that's most important to me is my relationships with planners, photographers, people that we work with, and not screwing them.
Or the venue, even.
So that's why I create that option. It's just like, it is political. It's, okay, you're agreeing that we can still use your wedding. You're still going to have to pay for us not to use the full film because that's hurting my marketing opportunity. But I can share the shots from the wedding so that everyone can be happy on the team. And
what we're referring to, guys, is like we make a lot of like 30-second detail reels for planners.
Right.
They do really well on social. They do really well for us. They get us work. They get the planner work, which also gets us work.
Yep.
And they don't have people in them. They just have details of the table, of the things. If we are able to put people in them, we often do because we think it's more human and it's better storytelling. But there's a lot of value to just push-ins of table settings and beautiful scenery, and that's the planner's work. So we give it to them. We hit collab on Instagram. We both get reach from both of our social media accounts. And the last thing we would want for our client is, and for the planner partner, is that we give them something, or like you had already mentioned, and then the client's like, what the heck? We signed an NDA, and we were like, well, technically you're wrong because your face wasn't. Like,
Right.
we don't want to get into that debate with
Right.
them. So we've created a political, relational opportunity so that everyone can get something valuable, and the couple can still feel like
they were in the loop. They knew what was going on.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So, yeah, I think that's kind of how we've dealt with it. Obviously,
How much are we charging these days?
I think it's $2,000 for the straight up NDA buyout, and then I think it's like 1,000 or 500 or something for somewhere around there for the partial.
Do you have any weddings that you can just bring to mind that have generated more weddings?
Yeah.
What's like one of the big ones for us?
So I shot a wedding probably in like 2014, forever ago. Shot a wedding. A couple walked up to me at the wedding and said, hey, we noticed how in the background you were, how just good energy you have, all this stuff. Our wedding is in 2 weeks. And we haven't hired a videographer because we were scared. We didn't want someone to be intrusive on our day, whatever. But we really like you. And I'm like, you haven't even seen the work. They're like, no, but we can tell. You know what you're doing. Cool, awesome. We'd love to hire you. Here's $5,000. That's probably what we were charging back then. Create our wedding film. Okay, where is it? Okay, it's at this venue. It's in Connecticut. Cool, I'm there. We shoot the wedding. The bride then lets us know a month later, hey, I just got hired by the venue to be their full-time coordinator at this venue. Sweet. That's awesome. Great job. Great opportunity. Yeah, we need a video on our website to be able to showcase the event space. Could I use my wedding film on the site? Pfft, of course. Yeah, definitely. Send it to them. We actually send them an embed link to my Vimeo page with my logo at the bottom. They embed it on their website. And since then, we've probably shot 25 to 30 weddings at this venue.
So listen, that is minimum, guys, 100K
Yes.
of revenue. I don't know which of the film or films, like for instance, Witchmere Beach Club, Castle Hill, Boston Public Library, like the places we shoot a lot that are high end, high dollar. Crane Estate. Like the reason we shoot Crane Estate all the time is because we shot Crane Estate.
Right.
And of course the planners work there and stuff. But in general, like we're not the only people who could shoot Crane Estate.
Right.
Anyone could shoot Crane Estate. People are just like, they're just looking and like, that's Crane Estate. Oh, they're pretty good. Wow, that's great film. And that's where I'm getting married.
Yep.
Like,
oh, have you worked with my photographer? Yes. Oh, have you worked with my planner? Yes. Oh, have you? Oh,
Can I afford it?
They
Yeah.
both recommended you. Both of them did. Oh, great. Shoe in. Done.
yeah, it's like we talk about referral trees a lot in here. Your own films are a referral tree. You got to realize that.
Yeah.
Like anything you're putting out there. And so,
Well, and we made a mistake recently in recent years of making all of our films private as a default on YouTube and on Vimeo. Well, on Vimeo especially, just as a default, because you don't want to show all of your films. I feel like If
some of
if
them
it was
might
a
not
bad
be...
weather day and everyone was inside the whole day, I'm not going to showcase that film for someone to look at and be like, they suck. And it's like, no, it was literally in a ballroom without any windows. Like, I don't suck. That wedding venue sucks. Like, I'm not going to showcase that wedding. So we made the decision, actually without me knowing, by the way, that they were going to make all the films private. And then recently I was like, all these films are private.
I thought they should all be public.
We should make most of these public, especially the venues that we're doing, because it just is
The
natural
only ones that, in my
SEO
opinion,
all the
shouldn't
time.
be public are ones that someone paid to not be public.
Right. Yeah. And the ones in a crummy ballroom without
I would
windows.
disagree with you, but it would have to be.
agree with me.
It would have to be so bad, like a wedding that is.
Well, some
like,
weddings are so bad.
A wedding that sticks out as like, this is so bad.
Because I just look at it as like, if we do this venue and they have a great outdoor space and like everyone has shot great weddings there, and then the one wedding film that we have that pops up and on screen is the crummy basement, like because it was raining outside, I don't want to showcase that wedding. But I don't know. To each their own. Anyways.
I would mainly just say probably no one's going to watch it if the thumbnail's not good. So
yeah,
just put a bad thumbnail
Sure.
if you don't want me to watch it.
Sure.
Anywho.
But yeah, that's kind of what we've done. But you're right. Like if you just put it out there, just the natural SEO of like, and now imagine. So I want to paint a dark
Yeah,
world.
because we're trying to give you, like, by the way, a justification of why you should be charging for this.
I want to paint a very dark world.
Okay, do it.
5 years from now,
5 years from now.
where every bride, all of a sudden it becomes
Trump is
fashionable.
president again.
Dude, there's thunder and lightning every day.
Yeah.
Okay. But imagine it becomes fashionable to have an NDA. You know?
Oh, yeah.
And all of a sudden every bride.
The Knot says
The
an article.
effing Knot releases a dumb effing article about why every bride should have an NDA. Imagine. Okay, so brides know about this. Now everyone thinks they're super important and shouldn't be shown online.
What kind of world
My
could that
privacy,
be? People think
whatever.
They're super important.
I know. And now everyone's just giving away NDAs for free because that's
like
what
when
would
people
happen.
were giving their deposits back during COVID.
Right. Those effing people. Yeah, making everyone else look greedy by standing by their contract. Anyways, so imagine that happens, and everyone is just giving away NDAs for free. Eventually, what does that do for the wedding film industry? On so many levels, it hurts the wedding film industry.
Well, and the one guy who's whose work is so good that they don't have to compromise on anything will crush you more and more and more.
Yes.
Like,
it just makes the amount of awesome wedding films that are coming out now. Just look at the growth in the last 5 years in our industry. So many different people. Like we're about to have Stanton Giles on the podcast. What he's able to do with his elopements, what Ray is able to do. Big, huge events. You know, what someone like Bottle Brush does. Like super eclectic and like creative and cool. Now, imagine the amount of weddings, less weddings like that you're just seeing. You're like, well, wedding filmmaking kind of sucks, right? Like, I haven't seen a good wedding film in years because the amount of weddings that are getting published are just smaller and smaller and smaller. You're not able to get it out there. And then also, what does it do for everyone's pocketbook? Like, the people who would stand by their guns and say, no, like, this is not how I operate. It either goes one or two ways. They're either going to be like, not get hired because everyone else is doing it, or they're going to be crushing because it's just not as important to them to have an NDA. They're like, no, we're going to stick by our guns. They're either going to crush everyone else. It's got to go one way or another.
And the irony is, like, there's no right or wrong answer. It's not unethical. It'd be one thing if it was like, there's no ethics where you are wrong for releasing someone's wedding film. Unless you said you wouldn't.
No.
So it's like one of those things.
Anyone
where
who
it's like,
makes that argument is not a serious person.
No, because it's
the
like
ethics of release. Like,
I'm
get outta
private.
here with
People
that.
need private. It's like, okay, well, that very other same. There's also people offended that you didn't release their wedding film.
Right.
So it's like,
There's no moral. Like,
it's not a moral discussion. It's just it's a marketing discussion. That's how you need to think about it. And so this is what I would ask.
Also a legal discussion of like, hey, if I'm out in the street, I can take a photo of your dumb face.
Yes.
Like, I can do that legally. The court will stand by me and they'll laugh in your face, being like, you're in a public space, like with a trash bag on your head, like, and a photographer took a picture of you because you look like an idiot and it's a good photo. Like,
Yeah.
they can do that legally. It's been proven in court.
But you can't take their photo and then say, Brawny trash bags. This person loves them. And that's what you're doing with your wedding film.
Yeah.
You're selling a product.
Right.
So the precedence that so this is my recommendation with NDAs. First of all, charge a lot of money. Make it hurt. Like, I don't know what you need to charge, but that person should have to think twice. Mm-hmm. It should not be a no-brainer to them. Whatever, if a lot of people, if no one ever like looks at your NDA price and says, I can't work with you, is not high enough. I honestly believe that. If someone's like literally just fishing around for someone who's going to lowball an NDA, they don't care about a wedding film anyway.
Right. And to this point, I would say it's not about the money. It's not about the money of like, it's not a money-making opportunity to have an NDA in your contract. That's not what it's about. The reason why you charge a lot is to dissuade
$2,000 is nothing. I'm like pissed that it's $2,000 because we just it can't be 100.
Right.
But we just exemplified in several occasions the value of wedding films to me as an artist.
Yeah.
They're worth way more than $2,000. That's not even one wedding for me. Like, honestly, the actual value of the NDA to me really should be probably like $10K because that's my top package and someone might book.
So you should charge more than what the couple even paid for the wedding film for the NDA.
Well, we can't do that.
Right.
But that's what it's worth to you. So it's like if you're going to do it for $200 or $250, like that's just ridiculous. It should be enough that the person looks at it and goes like, "Wow, that's expensive." And then you can explain to them why.
Yeah.
You can explain to them, well, for me, I only do a few wedding films a year. I only do 20 wedding films a year. And, I really, really need this to literally feed my family. So if you don't care about that, like, and this is what I would say to you is like, do you really want to work with people who literally don't care that your business goes out of business?
I would
like,
say
that's not how they're thinking. But like all the people, like I'm fine with it.
I think most people don't care if your business goes out of business.
I don't
COVID
care.
proved that.
I don't care because I don't need that relationship. But I'm told all the time by wedding filmmakers that it's all about the connection. And so you have this connection with this couple who makes you sign an NDA. It's like that person doesn't care about you. They just proved it to you. They don't care.
That's why that argument is not.
It's
true.
bump.
And I think most people don't believe that anymore. They did believe that at one point.
It's all
10
business.
years ago.
It's business on their end and business on my end.
COVID changed that philosophy 100% when all their friends were literally screwing them relentlessly and literally were asking for refunds and like, I don't care that it's a pandemic. Like, I'm going to take you to court and screw you to the nth degree. That is what people did. Your friends did. So
your friend clients, or they would like literally just like, it's just funny when you really understand that like it is business for all parties.
Yes.
For them and for you. And you can have very good business relationships with people. Mm-hmm. Like a lot of fun. You might even become friends with them. And that's fine too. Like plenty of the people that have been our clients. I was going down the list of like all the people in our industry whose weddings I've shot locally. Like so many people. So many planners, so many florists, so many people who work in the industry. And I'm like looking at these films and I'm like, every one of these films is so valuable to me. Yeah. Like the one with like Kayla the other day from Buds, right? That reel did really well for us because her husband was crying like a baby and it was cute and everybody loved it and she looks great and great reaction. She's big in the industry locally. Everyone loves Kayla. Right? Good reason. Great florist. Really sweet person. Amazing. And so I know for a fact that like we released this, it's done really well for us. She's of course a great partner. She knows the industry. She doesn't give us any crap or whatever. But it's like you're telling me your content is so valuable as a filmmaker, like as an artist, and it is. It literally has financial value. Your art is worth money. You shouldn't let someone tell you how to use the thing that you make that's valuable, that you can't make more money with it. I honestly believe I would support any filmmaker who said, I refuse to sign an NDA with anyone. If you had enough leads and you could handle it, I don't think it would be ridiculous.
Right. Right. But that's why I say, like, I'm in a position to get off a phone call after 5 minutes with a bride who's like, this is a non-negotiable for me. I go, well, okay, it's non-negotiable for me too. We should just get off the phone call because I'm going to shoot 8 weddings on your wedding day next year, lady. Like, it's a drop in the bucket for me.
Well,
It's
even
easy
if
for
I was
me to
going
say.
to just shoot one, I'll get someone else.
Well, it's easy for me to say. I would say the person that is just starting out, they get 10 leads a year, 20 leads a year. Like, it's going to be a lot harder for you. And I do have empathy for, like, we were all there, early filmmakers. Like, I get it. You kind of just have to be the whipping boy when you first start and take every opportunity. That's what I would actually recommend for you. Mm-hmm. Be hungry, do the NDA for free, whatever it takes. Like, that's work that you can take from me. And this bride had a $10,000 budget, by the way. I got off the phone call with her after 5 minutes because I was like, it's not worth your $10,000 to me. But for someone, that is worth it. So, but I would say long term, as you become more experienced, you're going to start realizing the value long term. Once you create that demand for yourself, like, you're really going to understand, like, just like exactly what you're saying. This one film could be actually worth $200,000 to me long term.
Like, you could, like, look at, like, the Drakes. I like Eugene.
The drinks.
I like Eugene. He's a great filmmaker. Yeah. I really only know this one film he made. He literally posted it again the other day. He's posted that film 100 times, probably. Why? Every time he does it, makes him money. And it's good, all that stuff. Like, whatever it is, everyone has that, like, film or films that are just crowd pleasers.
Yep.
They just make money. They're important to their brand.
Yep.
They're important. And your films are important. They're important to you. They're important to your couples. They're important to your next couple. And like, if you are just flippant about this, so let's just kind of get a little to close the episode. You know, I think if you're an established filmmaker, charge a lot of money, make it hurt. I don't know what that number is. Probably shouldn't be too much more than 20% of the total invoice. I don't know. We're not experts on that. You know, if people are buying it too much, you're probably too cheap. I think the person I want to talk to is that person who you mentioned who is early and they're having to make decisions about this. You know, how would you recommend someone who really actually, because they need money, but they also need content? How do they balance that? The need for money, because I don't know if this is happening a lot, by the way. I don't know if people who are starting out are dealing with these types of clients or not, but let's assume that they maybe are.
Yeah, I think you're right in that when you first start out, you're probably not dealing with a lot of, you're shooting country clubs. Not a lot of people in country clubs are going to want an NDA or even know what an NDA is. They're just happy to get married and they're going to do whatever.
And with our experience, they kind of like being on your social media feed.
Yeah.
I think it's fun. It's an honor, blah, blah, blah.
They're your friends, right? So
they're the people who use social media for fun.
Right. When you start getting into like a little bit higher end stuff, maybe even like your local weatherman, like you're shooting weddings for him or whatever.
Yeah, professionals, like white collar professionals.
Lawyers, doctors, whatever. People that are like, doctors don't want to be the internet because I think every doctor is afraid of getting killed from past clients.
Well, they have their contract with Big Pharma.
Right. Yeah, to protect. But yeah, so I would say Kalen from White and Reverie, we had him on weeks ago, said something that I thought was really interesting, and I think it's part of his curriculum. So I don't want to totally steal it. I'm definitely going to give him all the credit. But how many boxes do they check off? Is it like 2 out of 3 boxes that you have? Is it 3 out of 5 boxes that you have? Is that how you decide to take the type of work that you're taking? Does it pay the bills? Mm-hmm. Is it a place that you want to be? Is it with a couple that you really want to work with? Are they making you sign an NDA?
What is it with the partners that you want?
What are they with the partners that you want? Like those are good kind of starting points. I think every person has to decide for themselves what those boxes are and how many boxes it requires for them to be able to take that work. For me, I would just make the NDA box a lot bigger of a check than other boxes potentially. It's
NDA is a big negative for us.
Yeah,
we're in a place where we don't need to do anything that we don't want to do, and most of our partners, we're all on the same page. Like the wedding planners we work with typically are not going to be willing to work with someone because if you're doing 5, and you'll find this, the higher end wedding planners are either lots of NDAs because they're huge celebrities, which are, in my opinion, probably worth it.
Yeah.
Or are people who, need that content.
Right.
So you probably will have your boxes checked easily just by that nature.
Yeah. And I would also say, like, the person who's going to complain about the price in your NDA, like, the reason why they're so upset about how much it costs is because they don't value the work that you do the same way that you do. They're going to look at it and go, even $250. When our NDA years ago was $250, I had people complain about it. I can't believe you would charge for, like, our privacy, blah, blah, blah. And, like, it's just, like, clearly they don't understand the value that your work has. And so those people, I would say, like, they're not willing to pay $250. Clearly they don't value your work. In a world of people always talking about, like, value your work, value your
I wonder
pricing,
if you just...
like, literally this person that is complaining about your $250 pricing does not value your work.
What if every wedding had a $2,000 marketing discount instead? What if the way you listed your pricing
Well, that's how it actually applies.
That is what it is.
So,
it's
okay,
I have an $11,000 package, but I'm going to give you a $2,000 marketing discount. And so they were the only one who didn't get a discount.
So
everyone else got a discount.
If I had to, because that's essentially, okay, lady, you think that I should pay you for marketing? I'm just going to charge you $250 more or $2,000 more or whatever it would be for every single person. And then if I want to use your film, I'll pay you the $2,000, but I'm going to charge everyone else $2,000 more.
Or what if you said, okay, I'm going to charge you $10,000, but every wedding I get referred from your wedding, I'm going to give you $200 back.
Right.
Those people are like, oh, well.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it is to me.
Yeah.
That's what it is to me. You would take the money, bride.
Yeah.
So you want me to not take the money?
Yeah.
Like, I think, like, that's a fool's errand, by the way, to explain that to people.
Right.
Like, I would never recommend getting into legal battles with couples.
Yeah.
I think when you get into that situation, because they might actually come back. So you don't want to be a jerk. You just want to say, no, I can't do that. That person might literally go and be like, dang, I couldn't win that. Lick their wounds for 2 days.
They'll be like, I'll find someone. And then they go and look around. They're like, oh, everyone who doesn't charge for an NDA is literally a Craigslist person. Okay.
Or literally, I don't like anyone else's work.
Right.
And I couldn't win that argument.
Right.
So you don't want to make an enemy.
Yeah.
You want to keep people in a place, like, you want to walk away and say, hey, this might not be a good fit. You be classy, all that stuff. Don't get into, like, explaining things to people and embarrassing people.
You don't win when you're already talking about law.
Yeah, just kind of tell people this is what we do, and
Yeah.
in like a nice, emotionless, non-upset way.
Yeah.
But I will say to someone, like, know your line, like you said, know the boxes that they need to check, and then I think the other thing is, I think it's okay, especially if you are, you're doing like 80 leads a year, 60, 50. You're low, you're new, right? You're not booking that many. You can make a decision when you're looking, like, I would say, like, I wouldn't want more than 10% of my total weddings to have an NDA, no matter what.
Totally.
I would have a percentage in my mind because I know I need, out of those other, if I'm doing 20 weddings and 2 of them are NDA'd, those other 18, not all of them are going to be good enough to hit the reel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, like, you're already you're reducing your total marketing, like, assets by 10%. So I think, like, if I didn't, like, we have enough volume that we can handle it, but I would say pick a number based on what you do and try to figure out how many could I afford to give up? How many of these could I afford to give up if I had to? And if you look and you're like, I need everything I can get, you might want to walk away from $4,000 because, first of all, should we just leave that in the episode?
Sorry, we have a freight train going by next door.
So you need to ask yourself, how many can I afford to give up? And you might want, this is the, like, last thing I'm going to say to people. You might want to walk away from a $4,000 gig because it's going to cost you $50,000.
And it's so hard to predict when that's going to happen. That's what I would add. It's
Exactly.
Just like, you don't know when something's going to explode, but
Or you don't know when someone else is going to call you about the same day.
You can bet your ass you'll be kicking yourself if that wedding, say the photographer doesn't give an NDA and then they blow up and it's like this beautiful wedding and then it's just like they can post and you can't. That's also happened before where people have bought our NDA because they're like, it was cheaper than what the photographer was willing to charge. Mm-hmm. Therefore, they didn't do it for the photographer, but they did it with you because they're like, it was cheap enough, whatever. And they, explode and you're just kind of on the outside looking in.
Well, you don't think it's valuable just to have the person somewhere in the bottom of your caption say, at Stop Go Love? You haven't made a ton of money being tagged on photographers' photos.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
You don't make anything off of that.
No.
And so I think, I guess to simplify, it's worth money. Hopefully they've simplified to you that it should be worth money because it's costing you money. It literally is. It's literally costing you probably tens of thousands of dollars if it's the wrong wedding. And second of all, please stick to your guns. Don't be ashamed. Be nice, but also realize you have a very good reason for charging for an NDA. And if someone doesn't understand it, maybe you explain it, maybe you don't. I don't think you should feel the need to explain it. I think just telling people, I think it usually comes across better, Jared, to tell people, well, it's just not what we do.
Right.
Than explaining it to people.
Yep.
I don't know. Maybe you disagree, but.
No, I mean, that's essentially what I had to do today when I was on the call is essentially just say, I just can't do it. Like if I did that for, a fraction of people, it would just hurt our business, and it's just like, that's just what it is. And it's not rude. It's just business, man,
Yeah.
So
do it.
Make
Make sure you are charging and make sure. And honestly, I wish they would just go away. I hate the NDAs. I know that they won't, but I think it's okay for us to all admit that in general, NDAs suck. And they're not a sign of oh, you've made it. You're doing NDA weddings, It's no, NDAs suck.
I haven't thought about it that way.
No, I've heard when you get to the luxury, you're all doing NDA.
NDA swag, man.
Yeah, but it's why those guys aren't willing to Ray Roman does a lot of NDAs, right? He's willing to do it because he's working with this massive planner. Are you working with Michelle Rago? Are you working with Marcy Bloom? Are you working with someone who's going to consistently get you $40,000 gigs? No. It's not. It's apples and oranges, man. When Sculpting with Time or Ray Roman or Fior Films or Peyton Frank, when they're doing an NDA, they're not giving any money away. They're not.
Yep.
Because they're at that point, they're not making tons. They make some money off Instagram and stuff, but they're making most of their money on that relationship with that planner. And if that planner's I really need you to do an NDA for this, I'll do an NDA in 5 seconds.
Yep. Even though a lot of planners, like you said, they don't like them either. So we're all on the same page.
Yep.
So, let's wrap this up. Guys, if you found this episode to be helpful, which hopefully you have, and just understanding the business side, I promise you're not going to find a lot of podcasts for wedding filmmakers talking about NDAs for an entire hour.
So fascinating.
So interesting. But hopefully we've made it somewhat entertaining. Guys, give us a 5-star review. It's super duper helpful for us with all these podcast algorithms, with YouTube, with Facebook. Just people's involvement is super helpful. So I'm asking you personally to give us a 5-star review and let us know what you think of the show, ways that we can improve as well. And we're always looking for that. The whole idea behind the Wedding Film School is that we are giving away free content on a weekly basis to help the wedding industry in general become better wedding filmmakers. Jason and I have been privileged enough to run a wedding film company for going on 15 years now.
You can learn from our mistakes.
We do volume, so we don't necessarily have to sell you a course or a curriculum for thousands of dollars. We can create this cool setup.
We're the only
for
wedding
free.
filmmaking educators who mostly make wedding films, mostly make our money on wedding films.
On actual wedding films instead of selling you ads or curriculum. So, but hopefully this has been helpful for you guys. Check out our YouTube channel, Wedding Film School, as well as our other YouTube channel with just the podcast, The Wedding Film School Show, as well as on Facebook. We have a almost 17,000 person group where you can ask
I just
questions.
posted a fire meme the other day.
Yeah.
So you should check it out.
Get
Everyone go
involved
on
in the
there.
community. Have fun. Wedding filmmaking is awesome. Wedding filmmakers are even awesomer. So make sure you're checking that out, guys. Thank you for listening to this episode. We'll see you next week right here on the Wedding Film School Show.